book dormer. Today, in between being assaulted by the giant fur monster, we're going to be talking about a 2023 book. Now, I'm going to pre-warn you, something's going to happen at some point. It is bound to happen. We are going to be assaulted by the fur monster. Who's the fur monster? Well, if you've seen the channel, you know Breton, the giant golden retriever, is going to at some point come and maul me. Because I've already tried to film this, and he's already come over and whacked the camera back and forth a few times. Made for an interesting effect. Maybe we'll have a Breton mode in editing if we actually keep any of that. But otherwise, we're going to be talking about this book, which is The Will of the Many. Now, I went ahead and took the dust cover off. I have just the standard hard cover, so I'm going to keep standard dust cover. Not an amazing edition, but you know what? It worked really well on an airplane. And I had to fly out to California last week. 2 hours got 200 pages in on the way there. So I was going to say 2 hours. 2 hours. I wish it was 2 hours. It was 2 hours of some guy who makes me look tiny leaning against me. Because, yeah, you see me sitting in the the window seat and go, I should sit next to that guy. Exactly. That exactly. Uh-oh. I just made a voice. And here he comes. I told you the fur monster was going to come. Hello, Breton. You want to say hi to them? They're over here, Breton. He's kind of not so good at cameras. Anyway, but he's cute, so hopefully he's photogenic. All right, let's get into this book, because I want to talk about this book in particular. The Will of the Many, James Islington, came out in May of 2023. In fact, I believe it came out on the 23rd. All right, come on. If you're coming up, come on up. They want to see you. Come on. There you go. There you go, everybody. The star of the thing. So, let's talk about this book. This is my life right here. He's like, Daddy, make it stop raining so we can go out and go for a hike. Sorry. It's a rainy night in the Midwest. So, came out in May 2023. Just at the 1 year mark as I'm filming this. And I finally got around to reading it. It was a lot of people's favorite book of last year. A lot of people said this was their top book or one of their top books. And I can see why. I mean, it definitely checks a lot of boxes. In fact, this is actually the interesting part about it. It checks a ton of different boxes. I didn't realize this is a dark academia. All I heard was the fantasy and the backdrop of the very Roman style society with magic, or with will being used as magic. But when Will is able to do things like make airplanes, or at least high-flying train things, it trains off the ground and it doesn't have like a ground effect like a hovercraft, I count it as an airplane. Not one of these airplanes, but a similar style airplane. And we hit the Air Force Museum in Dayton. And they have one of the greatest planes of all time, which never really got made. But there's two of them and they have the one that survived. There you go. There's a Breton quake. That's the first Breton quake, if you felt it. Let's talk about this story. And first I want to go after the world it's set in. And there's so many pieces of this. Like, there's a lot of nuance in this book. For instance, what happens if the Roman Republic has three aspects? You have the military, whose job it is to go expand the world. All right, very much like the real Roman Empire. You have the governance. So this is the faction or the group in charge of the bread, keeping everybody happy, having the games, all those things. And then you have the religion. Now let's add to it that the religion is collecting a lot of power. And there's ancient artifacts, ancient things that people here don't really understand. They don't necessarily understand all the old pieces. And let's take it a step further. The military has conquered the world. As far as they know, they've conquered the world. Which is a little bit problematic when you're a war machine, because the war machine's got to keep getting fed, right? You got to keep paying, or otherwise, why are your families going into the military? And it's very much a family-based style item, where the family, the family does great. It's very much like Rome, where the great families would just keep producing people over and over, right? If you follow through, say, when Carthage attacked, you had Scipio the Elder, who's the one who's going by and saw Hannibal's army go by in southern France. And then Scipio Africanus, who I believe is his grandson. Don't get mad at me if I'm wrong. I'll check it and put a note up. But I believe it, certainly a relative I believe grandson, reappears and is like the big hero later. It's the same family. I mean, this would be like the Roosevelt sending out soldiers to go lead the military against our enemies. It'd be very this interesting style, and it's one of those things that really gets interesting in the European, or certainly in the Roman history. Now let's go after the magic side. There is this ancient, or something they don't necessarily understand completely, or if they do, they don't tell the commoners, method of taking will. So everybody has a certain amount of lifespan capability. I don't know what you want to call this thing. You know, your essence, your capabilities, your energy. Everybody in the hierarchy, as is known, and you have to be in the hierarchy. This is a bad thing if you're not in the hierarchy. You got to be in the hierarchy. If you're at tier 8, you have to give 50% of it to whoever's tier 7 above you. Tier 7 has 8 people in that, and then they have to take 50% of their essence plus the essence that they've been given, or the will they've been given, and give it to the level above them, and it keeps going up and up and up. And there's multiple of these chains. They don't all, sometimes they stop at like 7 or 6. You know, if you're in the backwaters, you're stopping at 6. Sometimes they go quite a bit farther up. And these people have amazing capabilities, like making things levitate and fly, and they can imbue items with their will. I don't know if you want to call it mana, quite the same as that concept, but it's definitely like a magic capability, but also based upon their spirit. Interesting. So people down in the rung 8, they're always tired. Poor families will sell their kids' will to rich patrons. Just let them be fed off of, essentially, in exchange for some coin. Keep the money coming in. Prisoners, and this is how we're going to meet our main character. Prisoners are actually put in devices, rather gross sounding, put in a device that's just, they're tied down. Oh, you're getting a puppy quake. Puppy quake's happening. Dude, you can stop moving the camera any time. These prisoners, they're put in and they're having their will sucked away from them, and way more than half. It's being sucked away for the good of the state. We don't know what the state does with it, but they're always like, stronger together. That's their quote. Right? We're stronger together. You've conquered everybody who you taking the will for. Well, you know, if you're at the top of the rung and you've been getting all this will and you're basically a superhuman because of it, aren't you going to keep doing it? Well, I mean, if you think you're the super rich, the family who's always been there, and you quite literally can do things like somebody who's a level 6, an 8 comes up and punches them. The level 6 might just be able to take it and then hit them back with the force of like 30 men and send them flying. So of course they want that. Let's get to our main character. So his name is Viz, V-I-S. He also has other names. He's got names upon names that he was hiding because he is a prince in hiding. One of the last holdout countries before the hierarchy took it over. He's the prince of the country. His baby sister was killed while he was trying to get her to escape. She ended up drowning. So he's haunted by this. His parents were murdered by the regime. Turned out that's really the people who died. They pulled them out and hung them and killed them by hanging, because that's such a great way to go. And that's what they did with him. So he's got this, whole revenge plot if he wants to take it. He certainly has a lot of anger. He's very much against the hierarchy. So our main character is not actually a member of the hierarchy. In fact, he bears scars because he went around for 3 years before he finally gave in and went to an orphanage. But being older, not going to get anything. Even though he's apparently skilled in everything. Oh, knows ancient languages? Oh, he knows them. Super fast at learning, can just absorb everything? Oh yeah, that's him. Good at swordplay? He can swordplay. Oh, want to trade punches? That's actually where he first kind of gets noticed, is he can trade punches really well. All right, so Viz, his orphanage has him working, and by orphanage I mean one lady who's in charge of the orphans for herself. She is after money and status, and so she's going to use the orphans to help get that. He's too old for this, so she makes him do half of her job and makes him go off and work in the prison where the people are put in the sappers, which takes their will, gives it away. Enter a rather powerful man from one of the great families, and he comes and he's wanting to interview somebody who's been put in there for political reasons. He is convinced that his younger brother was killed, and he blames the current headmaster of the academy. At this point, I should probably have figured out it was a dark academia. I probably should have noticed it at that point. I didn't. So we kept going. And he gets noticed. He touches the machine that probably should mess you up really badly and is able to take it. And so he draws this interest to this person. It's this rich family member draws interest, then starts tracking him. Viz goes off and fights at night. Oh, before then he's helping. He's already shown that he's like a really caring type person. He's the caretaker, the jailer, essentially, is nearing the end of his capabilities. He's already losing memories, losing thought, but he's in the hierarchy, and he'll go to the bottom rung and just basically have half his will sucked out of him if he isn't taken care of. And so Viz is trying to help him, and Viz plays whatever this game they play. It's like kind of a mix between Go and the Korean game with the flowers, like the flower type game. Kind of, that's what it felt like to me, at least reading it. Who knows? Maybe it's Baccarat for all I know. So he goes in the meantime, after he's taken care of him, which is how he ends up getting in trouble and meeting the Romanish lead family person. He goes and he fights at night in illegal gladiatorial, pugilism. So it's just punch. He shows up and they're going to pin him up against a level 6. Shouldn't be happening. He's going to take a whooping. He's supposed to take a whooping. He doesn't get whooped. He actually wins. Which, of course, draws the attention of this Roman man who's like, oh, I'm going to find out about him. Oh, he's an orphan, even though the man himself has got to just be early 30s. He's going to adopt Viz, because this is much more like the Roman style where sometimes you would adopt, the orphan or the poor soldier who happens to be great but is still young. You adopt him, bring him into your family, and he can carry on your legacy. Very much a Roman. There's a lot of great things coming out of the Roman history in this. So this man comes, finds him. Meanwhile, there's another person who's been interested in him and keeps wanting to meet, and for whatever reason, Viz keeps saying no. This person is a member of the rebellion. They don't want to be part of the hierarchy. In fact, they want to fight the hierarchy. So you've got this person who's trying to figure out how to meet Viz, to recruit Viz to their side, and they're aware of who he is. They are like, oh, but that's the lost prince of Seuss. And you have Roman guy who wants to bring him and send him off to the school, the academy where all the rich kids go, to figure out what happened to his lost brother. His brother died there. He wants to know how. They told him his brother committed suicide, which of course is a bunch of shenanigans. He knows that's not the case. But they don't know what happened. So they want to send Viz in to look at this. So about the first third of the book is him outside this academy. He goes back up to Rome. Well, I'm sorry, Rome. It goes up to the capital city, which is not Rome. Don't look too tight. It even has a Colosseum that gets flooded for games. But don't look too tight because it's not Rome. Anyways, he's up there. He's on bring him up to their I guess villa is the term you'd use, like their estate out in the country. And training montage with the young lady with no eyes who was very far along and just happened to have been dating the younger brother. And so she's going to train him in this crazy game thing. Not just teaching him. She's got to teach him everything. So he's got to learn all these dates, facts, names, all the families, all the things that somebody going to the academy should already know. The SAT, the Roman magic SAT. Add in this bonkers running game where they can move the field. It's like take take Maze Runner, mix it with Tron, and then have like a band here that you can go and make walls change. Except you can only do that when you get to a certain level. We'll get to that in a second. So big training montage. Other people, of course, will find out about him and go, "Oh, hey, my political rival has a new son, quote unquote. We're going to come over there and see if we can't learn from him and figure out what he's up to. Because what is he up to? He got this young boy, a 17-year-old or a 16-year-old at that point, right? And they're like, well, obviously something's up. We wouldn't just choose a random urchin for this unless he's got some super skill set that's going to help you. And we want to know what it is so it can help us." Because everyone's at everybody's back. You can trust no one. Everyone's got an agenda. Actually kind of makes it fun, right? There's an agenda here. The person who took him in is pretty straightforward on the agenda. I want you to go find this, and you need to go find this for me. Now, he left off the inherent threats. The whole, I will put you in one of those sappers is going to suck your will out if you don't find stuff for me. Like, there's definitely threats flying. You need to get in there. You need to get to the top of the class. And you need to find out stuff. And if you don't, punishment. Even if you do, but it's not sufficient, punishment. That's the sponsor doing this. Picture the bad guys. But then everyone's kind of a bad guy in a certain point of view in this book, which is actually something great. I do like that most of the adult characters, at least, have depth to them. Let's see. So the neighboring rival political person comes over, talks to Viz, talks him into taking his daughter to some festival. The festival gets attacked by somebody who they pull Viz aside. He meets. There's a lot going on here before this. Just run with it. Just expect that there's layers and layers. The rebellion's made contact with him. The rebellion says, "Come to this festival." Viz is like, "Well, I can't get to that festival." This guy shows up and goes, "Hey, I want you to meet my daughter and train with her." And he's like, "Oh, maybe I can combine these." And so he and the daughter go off to the event to meet. They meet the person who they wanted to talk to, get invited to the rebellion, say no, go back. The rebellion says, the heck with it, goes nuts and starts just murdering people. Somebody's whipping out this major magic and just like melt waves of people. Viz saves the girl, runs back, takes out the bad guy. Makes himself kind of a hero of the land. Man, he's a hero of the hierarchy, and he hates the hierarchy. All right, that's... Luke Skywalker just became the hero of the Empire. I like the layers. All right, so now he goes off. So now he's at least known. He goes down, gets in at the school, the academy. They basically ask him what level he wants to come at. There's levels 7 through 1. Or no, I'm sorry, 7 through 3. And he's at the bottom. And he actually wants to earn it because who knows why he wants to earn it. So he goes right through 7 like it's nothing, but 6, the person hates him, who's in charge. It's a very hierarchical. This academy is a mix between, picture, I don't want to say Hogwarts, because I don't think it really is. It's layers. Like these, layer 6 is above layer 7. If you punch a layer 6, layer 7 could have you kicked out of the school and your life ruined. Layer 5 can do that to 6. Layer 4 can do that down. Layer 3, and they all get to do different things. He's way, way more talented. He should be up in layer like 4 immediately, but layer 6 is either racist. It does seem like there's some racism there. If there's not racism, there's outright just, hey, I don't think you're one of us. Which probably at least borders on racism, but sometimes racism, I don't remember when I was reading through it if I actually noticed like what we would call racism in the Western world, but probably elements of it. Right? There's certainly biasing going on here. And there's layers of biasing. And so he takes him quite a while. He gets threatened. Like, you need to get out of that version you're in. You need to do whatever it takes. Get out of there. He ends up asking for help of both his new father and the rebellion. What do you know? A spot opens up. Let's just say if it's not absolutely obvious that they took somebody out to make a spot open, they took somebody out to make a spot open for him. And so now he's got that guilt because they're claim, the family, of course, disowns the kid because the family thinks the kid offed himself, and no, most likely not. So somebody got killed to move him up, because both the rebellion and his father are trying to get him moved up the ranks quickly so that he can get up towards level, or the third group, and that's what the level that you want to be at. You want to be up in the thirds. Whew. There's a lot going on. There are love interests. There's people who, like the girl who he went to the arena with, who he saved, who isn't sure about him and thinks he's up to something, but might like him. There's a girl who just immediately starts hanging out. A third. Thirds don't hang out with sevens. The third was hanging out with him. There are fantastic friends. In fact, they're probably the best characters in the book. There's two people that he has befriended along the way. A slacker who thinks that being in third is going to be a death sentence, so he purposely moved himself down. And then somebody who didn't speak the common language well enough because he's an outsider and he's got a lot of anger, and so he gets moved. He's down in 6. And yeah, interesting little raps. And there's just everything's politics. Every connection, every boss. The head of the academy is super nice to him, but does ask, hey, I know you're here because this guy thinks that I killed his brother, which is, of course, ridiculous. He was my friend. And yeah, you never know if there's an answer coming on anything. Again, I told you we're going to stop at the halfway point. It keeps changing. The plot moves. There's new elements. There's stuff in the last fifth of the book that's like, excuse me, what? The epilogue had revelations. I'm like, that's an interesting place for him to pop in. So, book, until right about the 3/4 mark, I would have said solid 5. As it is, I'm throwing it down at a 4.5. I probably need to reread the last 50 pages again, which kind of irks me that I have to do that, because it took a twist that was like, oh, did we just switch genres? Like, what the heck just happened here? Not gonna tell you about it, but yeah, it's there for you. And let's see, next book is not due out until 2025 is what it's looking like. 2 months ago, the author posted on Facebook that he was still working on the book. It's meant to be a trilogy, so do expect that this is going to be a long burn. Fortunately, he's young, and he is working on it, or so he says. So hopefully it'll get out, and he's done a full other series, so it's probably along that pathway. That it is going to get done. It might just be a little while. Man, I wish he knew how popular this book would have been, because if he knew how popular and how good this book was when he turned it in, he probably would have been writing the next book already, because this book deserves a good sequel. All right, so obviously you can tell I like the book. I would recommend, if you like Roman things and fiction and fantasy, political intrigue, interesting magic systems, interesting social structures, intrigue, maybe a little romance, though we don't know if that goes so well, then there you go. Pop it in. Will of the Many. Thanks for coming. And I'll see if I get Brenton up here real quick. Brenton, do you want us to come say goodbye? Come here. Get up here, punk. All right, I had to con him to come up. Come on, Red. Come on up. Come on. You can do it. You want to say goodbye to your adoring public. Tell them what you liked best about Will of the Many. I thought there was a really cool doggy. Because the hero kind of sucks and needs an Deus Ex Machina to help him. Was that a little too rough? All right, sorry about that, buddy. I thought there was a Deus Ex Machina, and I don't like Deus Ex Machinas. That's right.